Terrence Crawford, he wants to fight Errol, but Errol Spence is too slow. Bob Arum says that Errol Spence is too slow for Terrence Crawford and believes it should be pretty much an even split. We're going to talk about that, what was said on this side. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. You know I'm dropping the latest and greatest. Now, Bob Arum did an interview with Barbershop Conversations, and he believes that Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford needs to be negotiated on the terms of a 40% purse split, and the winner gets 20%, you know, like the surplus, right? He says, quote, Terrence Crawford annihilates Errol Spence. Spence is too slow. Terrence is a much more skilled fighter. I want to give my thoughts. For starters, this looks like this fight won't happen. You know, it's crazy that, and you see the same things happening over and over in boxing. Terrence Crawford is saying, don't ask me about Errol Spence. The fight is over. No can do. I'm done with the fight. I'm done talking about the fight. You're not about to be playing games. And you have Bob Arum, who is Terrence Crawford's promoter, and he's still talking about the fight. He's doing something else and, you know, furthering the conversation by suggesting that Errol Spence is far too slow and that Errol Spence would get stopped and annihilated, as he put it. The other aspect of what he's saying is the purse split. I disagree 1000% with the great Bob Arum, and that's just because you got to understand, and I know Bob Arum understands business because he's survived in the cutthroat business since probably the 60s or whatever, and he's 88 years old. So I get it, but what he's putting out to the public, he's suggesting that Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence should do an equal split. But to do an equal split, you got to look at the business and the business side of things, if that's going to be suggested. And the reality is what the great Ego Stradamus has told you. Terrence Crawford is a terrific fighter, but he hasn't done equal work. So why would he get a half and half, pretty much split, 40-40, and then, you know, a win bonus if he beats Errol Spence Jr.? It does not make any sense to me. You know, from the perspective, people will get mad at me for saying the obvious truth, but it's okay. I'm content being the elephant in the room because I'm here to speak the truth. People will get mad at me as if I created the rule set of boxing, and because we don't live in a perfect world, and I'm a realist, and I realize that we live in an imperfect world. So what I mean by that is this. In a perfect world, yes, belts should be what establishes and shows who's the true champion and the lineage, and there should only be one champion for divisions and each division. Yeah, it sounds great, but we know this isn't the reality. You got guys working up the ranks, guys like Average Pilgrim. They get an opportunity with a guy like Canelo Alvarez, and most people feel like they don't deserve it. They're off of a 2-year layoff like Average Pilgrim, coming off a loss where he got stopped, and he gets the fight. Meanwhile, when Jermall Charlo was Canelo and Triple G's mandatory, the WBC did nothing to order that fight and force Canelo or Triple G to give a black fighter, Jermall Charlo, that opportunity. But somehow, some way, the unnecessary fight got made. So again, we live in an imperfect world, and I'm not going to suggest others or suggest otherwise. So these are the realities of the sport of boxing that we all love and the status of boxing. And at the end of the day, there's guys like, let's say Ryan Garcia. He amassed a following. He might have a fast track or easily get certain fights that other guys can't get because of his novelty or the fact that he has a fan base. These are all obvious truths in the sport of boxing. So with that being said, why would I act oblivious and turn a blind eye to the fact that Terrence Crawford Albeit he's a great fighter, he has not done equal work. Errol Spence and PBC, they have done more of the heavy lifting, right? And I seen Crawford's rant, and he was saying, oh, guys are saying this and this, and his team and himself are pretty much labeling this as excuses. I'm a boxing fan, so sure, I would love to see Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford fight because I'm a paying customer. Of course, I would love to see the fight. But my thing is this, I am also a realist. There will be no fight if Bob Arum, Team Crawford, Terrence Crawford, if they have these ideals that they are in charge. You know, I just don't see the fight happening because at the end of the day, at the heart of the matter, Terrence Crawford doesn't hold the cards based on how he's been branded. You got to look at it. The reality as I see it is Terrence Crawford, he arose to prominence before Errol Spence. Like, there's a lot of guys that really didn't even know what an Errol Spence was in 2014, where Crawford was putting in work and on HBO in the main event with Yuriorkis Gamboa in a classic fight. I love that fight, right? But what has Top Rank and Team Crawford done for Crawford's brand since 2014? Have they made a conscientious effort to take their black star fighter and make him into a household name and to a star? Or has ESPN given other guys like Tyson Fury and Vasyl Lomachenko and even Teofimo Lopez different and more opportunities to assert their greatness or whatever they bring to the table? And it's crazy because as talented as Terrence Crawford has been in his career and impressive and things like that, you never seen ESPN and Top Rank really push him as such. You know, Tyson Fury got bigger paydays than Terrence Crawford. How come? You know, I remember Tyson Fury fought against an unknown guy in Tom Schwartz, and the commentators even said he's like a heavyweight Terrence Crawford. See, that's the thing. They'll praise certain people, but how come they're not paying Terrence Crawford like they're paying Tyson Fury, but they're comparing Tyson Fury in his ring generalship and his ambidextrous, you know, I guess he switched to southpaw or something. They're comparing it to Terrence Crawford, but then Crawford's not reaping the benefits in his own career. So, you know, I think just based on the business decisions, Crawford, I don't see how he's going to get what he wants out of this equation, or Team Crawford or Bob Arum. I know Crawford didn't say this particular nugget, but why would you in business? My question to you guys is simple. This is going to hurt a lot of feelings, but why would you concede when you don't have to? Very simple concept in business. If you have the leverage, if you can get away with it, then you're going to get away with it. So if Errol and PBC have more belts and they have the opportunity to fight for a third belt against a credible name, a respected guy in your Dennis Ugas, that will give Errol Spence 3 belts. So why would you concede your A-side star power, all the stuff, the whole vehicle, the bandwagon, everything that you've been able to accomplish in lesser time than Crawford in his Gamboa fight? Like I said, to me, Gamboa was a fight that put Crawford on the map, and that was 2014, almost a decade ago. You know, we're in 2021, and in a shorter period of time, PBC has taken Errol Spence from, I want to say, irrelevance, where people didn't really know who he is, to making him a top paid guy. Errol Spence just recently said on social media, outside of Deontay Wilder, nobody on PBC make more money than me. You know what I'm saying? So they made him into a top guy. His own natural ability and skill set, his team, Al Heyman and PBC. But the same can't be said for Terrence Crawford. So it's a bad look for Team Crawford, because he's saying don't mention Errol Spence, the fight is dead, but then his promoter, who he's still attached to for the foreseeable future until his contract expires or whatever, is bringing up Errol Spence, and Errol Spence is just chilling. Errol Spence ain't having to say nothing. You just hear Terrence Crawford, Bob Arum, and other people mentioning Errol Spence, and he's just sitting back tucked, enjoying family time until it's time to fight. So it's a weird look. But again, I don't understand this whole angle of why Errol Spence would give Terrence Crawford a 40-40 split and a win bonus to the winner of 20%. Why? What is the point of being the A side if you just concede all your leverage just to force a fight. You know what I mean? To me, it don't make sense. So if you guys can explain that intelligently in the comment section, I'm definitely up for hearing it. But I don't understand this whole premise of 40-40 and 20 to the winner. You do that if you have equal parts. And the thing is, people have this misconception. This is not even about the fight. Terrence Crawford could beat Errol Spence. Errol Spence could beat Terrence Crawford. I don't know what happens in the fight. I can project and predict, but they got to fight for that to happen. This is just the pre-fight banter and the negotiating. And the negotiating, you got to negotiate based on real life terms. And the real life terms, Terrence Crawford hasn't done as well. He hasn't done as many. He's only done 2 pay-per-views and they both flopped. Errol Spence has done at least 3 pay-per-views and they all did significantly better. Errol Spence outsold Canelo in December with his fight with Danny Garcia in terms of live attendance. He's drawing crowds of 15, 16,000, 50,000 at the AT&T Stadium. This is a reality. Crawford hasn't done that. He's done well for himself in Omaha and packed that out. But Errol Spence is taking the show on the road. He's not just selling impressing in Texas. He also did 16,000 at the Staples Center, right? He also fought at the Barclays, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't make sense. And for that reason, I think Errol Spence and his people are aware of this, and the fight won't get made, until they come up off these high demands. Terrence Crawford, as skilled as he is, that doesn't have anything to do with the leverage you do or don't have. There's a lot of skilled guys. You know what I'm saying? There could be somebody who's more skilled than Jake Paul, but they might make less money than Jake Paul. That's just the reality of boxing and the business side of boxing. Whether people want to hear these ugly truths or not, I'm here to speak the truth. And the reality is Errol Spence has 2 belts and he has the option to get a 3rd belt. Terrence Crawford is the one being antagonized by the fans saying, hey, step it up. We want to see you fight bigger names. And he's the one saying the fight's canceled. And then now his promoter is saying that, Errol's too slow and they should do a 40-40 split. Why would you would Bob Arum, if he had Pacquiao and he was going to fight Pacquiao, I'm trying to think of a good name. Let's say Pacquiao is going to fight Robert Guerrero back in the day. Pacquiao would have been the decided A side in that situation, no matter what the case is. So why would he give a 40-40 split to Pacquiao and Robert Guerrero when Robert Guerrero doesn't bring in the same fan base, the same statistics, the same proven analytics, and hasn't accomplished the same exact milestones, and Pacquiao got 2, possibly 3 belts? Why on earth would the split be even when Pacquiao has done this body of work? So I don't see how this fight is going to happen because the terms don't seem remotely realistic, or the demands beforehand. You have to get over these obstacles. And I really don't see Errol Spence and his team coming up off of their position of power, as they shouldn't, to deal with this. I would just go fight Dennis Ugas and try to fight Pacquiao if I could, period. And then Crawford, let them fight whoever he's going to fight. Bob Arum said there's a major announcement. Just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Also, get TUBEBUDDY. Use my link. We working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.